everyone, you're watching the weekly Forex Outlook by Light Forex. From this video, you will discover the prospects for the main currency pairs. The main topics which will interest traders in the upcoming days will be trade tensions between the United States and China, the results of the election in the European Parliament, Brexit, and the economic data for the key economies will also matter. Let's have a look at the chart of the US dollar index. And the weekly chart shows us that American currency, the key currency for Forex traders, declined last week and it failed to get above the highs of April. The decline of the USD happened even as a trade war between the United States and China intensified. Earlier, the USD managed to climb on worries related to trade war. However, now investors fear that trade tensions will affect negatively the economy of the United States. And actually, we kind of see some negative data which are released in America and already show that trade tension might have a negative impact. For example, on Friday, the United States released big durable goods orders figures, and also there were reports about low manufacturing activity, which is at multi-year lows in America. As a result, market players increased their expectations of a rate cut this year. Actually, the market is now pricing one rate cut by October and another in January 2020, despite the fact that the minutes of the Federal Reserve's meeting released last week showed that the central bank didn't actually consider such option. Still, the market is worrying, the market is expecting a rate cut, and that is a major obstacle for the United States dollar to get higher, and that might limit the upside and even put the USD under some pressure. It's time to have a look at the economic calendar at lightforex.com to see which events await us this week. And on Monday, there won't be many events. The US and British markets and banks are closed because of a holiday. On Tuesday, have a look at US consumer confidence figures. More events will take place on Wednesday. Primarily, the Reserve Bank of New Zealand will release a financial stability report, and the governor of the central bank will speak for 2 times, so definitely his comments will be important for the New Zealand dollar. ANZ business confidence will be also released. And the key event of Wednesday will be the meeting of the Bank of Canada. Let's check it in the calendar. Here it is, Bank of Canada's interest rate decision. The Bank of Canada already removed its hawkish bias, and it hinted that it had no plans to increase interest rates. However, given Canadian good employment data, the change in statement may take place, so traders will certainly follow this event to make their trading decisions about the Canadian currency. On Thursday, there will be figures related to Australian building approvals and private capital expenditure. Here they are. United States will release preliminary GDP for the first quarter. This is the second time America releases GDP growth for the first months of the year. And you can see that a minor revision to the downside is expected. New Zealand will make its annual budget release. On Friday, we'll await China's official manufacturing PMI, which will show us how this economy is doing. This might affect market risk sentiment and currencies like Australian and New Zealand dollars. There will be the release of Canadian GDP, and the release is not expected to be very strong, although you can see that some improvement is expected according to the economic calendar. And there will be a bunch of data from the United States. Pay attention to core PCE price index, as this is the inflation indicator the Federal Reserve is paying attention to. Also, there will be personal spending data and Chicago PMI. So these are the major events of the week, and make sure that you follow them and watch them in the economic calendar at lightforex.com. In the meantime, it's time to get to the charts and do technical and fundamental analysis of the major pairs. So euro-dollar found support around 1.11 last week and managed to rise to 1.12 area. Still, we can see that the general range of the currency pair didn't change much, and the setup on the weekly chart is still not positive. Moving averages are in the negative position. There is resistance provided by 200-week moving average around 1.1540, and a resistance line going down from the highs of 2018 is still limiting the price on the upside. On the daily chart, we can see the price action. We can see that there are further obstacles at 1.1225, 50-day moving average, the 100-day moving average just below the level of 1.15, and 200-day moving average around 1.1380. So given all these resistance levels and lines which are currently above the euro-dollar price, we will be very cautious about long positions and expect the continuation of consolidation at the ranges we have seen, with support in the area of 1.11. Major news from the euro area are about the parliamentary election, and it turned out that pro-European Union parties managed to hold on to 2/3 of seats in the European Parliament. This is surely positive for the euro and means that we won't hear about the rise of the Eurosceptics. We won't have this spiraling of negative risks. As a result, support at 1.11 looks strong for this currency pair. The chart of British pound US dollar shows us that after the decline to 1.26 area, the pound managed to recover a bit. Here, the major piece of news is surely Prime Minister Theresa May's statement that she will quit on June 7th as the Prime Minister because she didn't manage to deliver Brexit because of various disagreements between British parties, and as a result, now the market's attention will focus on potential successor of May. For now, there are several candidates and nothing is certain yet. However, the possibility of a no-deal Brexit is rather high, and that will keep the British pound under pressure. Much of the negative news is already priced in, and we already saw a very steep decline of the British pound in the previous weeks. However, as long as it stays below resistance in the area of 1.2770, and if we get this dark cloud cover pattern on the daily chart, the near-term focus will be on 1.2610 level again. And to make lower targets to sell the British pound with lower targets on the downside. Probably some new information will be needed that Britain indeed chose Prime Minister who is in favor of Brexit at any cost. This may send the British pound towards 1.24 versus the USD. But we will need to see the close below 1.26 level for that to be a certain scenario. In the meantime, the consolidation between 1.2770 and 1.26 will be expected. The USD declined during the recent days versus the Japanese yen after the currency pair met resistance at 110.65. The pair is now trading around 109.50 mark and is vulnerable for 109 level. According to analysts, there is a demand for the US dollar below 109 because Japanese companies buy the USD for their deals. We know that Donald Trump said in Tokyo this weekend that trade negotiations with Japan will continue after the country holds elections in July. All in all, the Japanese yen will be bought as safe haven, and it looks like that despite the demand for the USD, the way to the upside will become more difficult, and look for selling opportunities on the attempt of the US currency to return to the area of 110, having conservative targets at 109.50 and 109. The next support below that is at 108.55. The US dollar Canadian dollar is consolidating in the sideways range in which it stays since the end of April. The market is awaiting the meeting of the Bank of Canada, so it will surely bring this currency pair in motion. At the same time, support in the area of 1.3380 looks rather strong. There is buying interest there, and the USD is still in demand here in times when the markets are in risk aversion mode. So the Canadian dollar may try to strengthen, bringing the currency pair to test lower levels, but the reaction may be short-lived and the Canadian dollar may weaken once again, so the pair returns back to the range between 1.3510 and 1.3380. For the USD to continue growth, American economic figures should definitely improve, so that we should see a closing of the currency pair and a break above 1.3510. The target will be, in this case, 1.3665. Australian dollar managed to find some support around the level of 0.6870. The currency pair is trying to form a bottom. However, there are multiple resistance levels. The first one in the area of 0.6950, the next major resistance at 0.70, and of course the market's risk sentiment is not in favor of the Australian currency, but if the USD gets weaker and if there are some positive comments from the United States and China, they may see another attempt to return to 0.70 mark. New Zealand dollar also went up. We expect some statements from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand to see how it estimates the situation. The next resistance is located at 0.6585 and above that 0.6660. So we may see an attempt to test higher levels this week, but remember that the great uncertainty related to Brexit, related to trade talks, still here. And all in all, risk currencies like Australian, New Zealand and Canadian dollar will still very vulnerable, and many investors will try to sell them on the rallies. The USD is strengthening as the safe haven. It continuously tested levels below 12.75, but then managed to get higher. The potential for the increase exists, and the price may test 100-day moving average in the area of 12.9644. However, resistance at 1300 will be really strong, so only weak data from America will make the price of the precious metal overcome this resistance level. And finally, oil tested significantly low levels as we got news of increased inventories in the United States, and as the market was in the risk-off mode. However, we can see that the prices found support in the area of 68.30. There is the 100-day moving average going up below that level, so this area should stop the decline in oil at least for some time, and only below 67.10 will the risks of the decline towards 64 mark really intensify. Resistance is located around 70.15 and 70.70. This is all for today. Thank you for your attention, and trade with Light Forex.